only thing one of our meetings, office looking to buy out.
Yeah.
The only thing that came up, and then this, no.
Yeah. Yep.
I sent a letter, when I, there was stuff from Tony Guido and the whole board, and I'm supposed to. You gotta go on. He was there and wait to see this. Just ticked me off, and I was still. I need to be a little older, and start staying home.
How's you last this? How's that ticker?
Oh, I just had a picture nitro.
Please.
No, but how can they do that? It's,
Millions and millions and millions, and it's not.
but
enough
where are
for
they
the
getting the
day before.
millions? And then what are they, maybe I ought to put that word too. But
I got a email from Bob Denver.
Yeah.
The day before, what's the county thinking? I said, I can't believe they're that stupid, they're even entertaining. And then the next day, it's in the paper.
And they signed it right off the bat. That's why I'm so angry that I didn't go to that meeting instead of my class. Because I would have gotten up and said something, maybe they would have thought of it.
Craig, Ryan.
All right, very good.
Oh.
Now we have concussion when we say one.
Yeah, we're gonna take out the
I don't know what to, but.
Funny
cool,
thing
like
is,
the dude.
my two grandsons, I have a Matt and Mike. Now here we got a Matt and Mike.
Partial.
So I always have to say to this, if I say something about a Matt at Gus, whether it's my grandson or Township Matt.
My dad's name was Mike. I was called Mike. So I respond to Mike, Matt, Mark, Pat. Yep, 7, 4 letter and name.
You have to leave it on one paper, so.
Not bad. I whittled my presentation up 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and you're gonna lose it.
I have one person.
It's short. You guys are-
Just tell us the change.
Which way?
you guys are giving me grief.
Okay, my watch says 9. You'll rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, Chair has no comments, unless saving for a while. Subdivision land development projects. Zoning hearing board application.
Thank you. And so we have 2 that are current, that are going to be going up in front of December zoning hearing board. The board has forwarded a link to both of those applications. And just wondering if you had any questions, comments, or concerns about either one of them.
So this is basically just an extension for 180 you've written for an extension of the
Correct. They're adding an additional 53 spots. Based on staff conversations, I believe the current use is warehouse, which is already a non-conforming use as far as the parking goes. It won't be for that use required number of spaces for flex space, which is what they want to change it to, is 370. There's only 84 spots existing. So they'll be increasing that to 53. They're restricted by some gas line easements and things on the property to meet the requirements of parking. So that's what they're asking for that. Correct.
I'd like to. Just out of interest.
I believe that it is the they pre-manufactured restrooms for big development projects. So they will have, they'll have office space and stores and things like that. Will be there.
Modular bathrooms, self-contained bathroom. Go in. That's what we do. Like cruise ships.
It's interesting that businesses that the,
Like it looks like a very good, yeah, looks organized. Yeah, it'd be a good dad.
And yeah, are they new? Is that what you're saying? They're new to the township?
Yeah.
Move to the township.
Yeah.
They're growing.
So they're actually, they'll be a new tenant of this building. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I believe they're out of Montgomeryville, Montgomery Township. To expand the production facilities.
But they do need the extra parking. They want to hear your word that they should be applying for, fitting out the building. So still have to do stormwater management. And everything. It's not. It's new parking, which is good.
yeah. And I'd like to say something, because there's a lot of new people around this table. That parking is always a problem when you put in buildings. And when you put in buildings that are flex space and then you for some warehouse that needs less parking, take a look down the road up the community. Because they do need more parking. We've had problems over on Upper State Road where the building was part offices and part warehouse. And then all of a sudden, they just went and made the other part offices, and they didn't have enough parking, people are calling here complaining, and so you got to be careful about how much parking you're forced to put in, and understand that sometimes uses can change, and parking changes, and if they don't, there's been times when we allow them to put aside property that put in the parking. But if there's not enough property there to do that. So it's just something I think you need to keep track of, and maybe you need to look at what kind of parking you need to manage in some of these places, and keep an eye out for people that just go ahead and change it. They don't come to the township. That's my soapbox for that. All right, so we're finished with that.
It's an opportunity for the board to, if you want to send solicitors to support, do nothing, it's just for information. So if the board doesn't have any other questions.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's good to, we don't want empty buildings. Really. All right. So now, your part.
Any questions?
So,
Presentation of the final budget for
I see that.
2022.
Oh, you can.
So please go to work today, please.
This is mostly the same information that we've seen before, just an abbreviated 12 short slides. Just to summarize things for the record, this is the final 2022 budget that I am recommending the board adopt in 2 weeks. Remember, we are here. This is the presentation of the final budget at the workshop meeting. We'll be considering the final budget for adoption in 2 weeks, 20th. This is from this is an updated slide from the first round of presentations. No changes. There are no changes from the preliminary budget to the final budget. Pleased to report that we are still on track to pass a balanced budget. This is what the proposed budget looks like. I'm not going to go through line by line, since this is a holdover from the previous two presentations. So total revenue for all funds, we have a 29% increase. And the lion's share of that increase is coming from earned income taxes. Had a really nice healthy bump in expected earned income taxes for 2022. Real estate taxes are a nominal change. I'm putting it in as no change. And the other one, as we've discussed previously, is this real estate transfer tax. The real estate market is hot. I think that's going to continue through 2022. My sources indicate that that's the case. Therefore, we are estimating there will be a 57% increase in that real estate transfer tax. That's one that I'd like us to keep our eye on in future budgets. I think this is going to be an anomaly. I don't think we should be expecting that we're going to have more than 50% increase in real estate transfer tax. Just something for us to continue to look at moving forward.
Can I say that that's one of the things in the past we've always underestimated because it keeps us safe. You know, we were making money when we had building permits going out like crazy, and we realized that was going to stop. So we really cut back on what we expected from building permits. So this is the kind of thing that, yeah, underestimated.
I am a big fan of that. Yes, indeed. I know Bill and I had many conversations moving up to the preliminary budget about, you know, who is underestimating most. So
Okay.
this budget is a really good representation of what both Bill and I believe is a good estimate for 2022. And thanks to Bill for spending the time. It was that whole day budget extravaganza over that lunch and everything. Thank you. Expenses. Our total expenses versus the 2021 budget are up 11%. And these colors are similar from the previous two presentations. I kind of took a look at all of our expenses and organized them in 3 buckets. I updated this name. I called them investments in the previous 2 presentations. As I was putting this presentation together, I thought it was a little confusing because investments, people say, oh, monetary investments, you're investing in the stock market. So I changed them to special projects. And these are those foundational projects that we discussed moving forward, one-time investments that will help staff manage future budgets. So our people, this is a 3% payroll increase across the board. That's been past practice to follow the police contract for all non-uniform employees. Special projects, you're going to see it's a 100% increase because these projects that I have in the proposed final budgets hadn't been in previous budgets. That's why it's 100% increase. It looks like a scary number, 100% increase, but it's a fraction of the cost in those investments. And those investments in those special projects really will pay dividends for future budgets. It will enable us to identify future needs for expenses and help us put together budgets that can continue the long-term stability, financial stability of the township. Routine costs, I estimated is about a 15% increase. These are electricity, gas, fuel, all of those costs that we pay for that are difficult to quantify. I'm just estimating roughly a 15% increase. Our capital expenses are unchanged. Going to be upfitting the 2022 police vehicle that was purchased in 2021 because of the chip shortage. Remember, we're not going to be receiving that until early 2022. The 2021 budget had the purchase of the vehicle. The 2022 budget has the upfit. It's a significant investment to get all of the equipment required to get that police vehicle fully functional. Chief and I are continuing, and Ryan are continuing to work on the vehicle replacement plan. That's another plan that we'd like to institute on what is the lifespan of a police vehicle, what's the lifespan of a public works vehicle, what can we do in-house for long-term maintenance, how can we extend those lives of all of those vehicles out. So we're currently in the process of developing that plan. This budget has a total of $100,000 extra for supplemental road paving. If you remember, we've been paving all of our roads with liquid fuels funds. And liquid fuels funds continue to go on a downward trajectory because liquid fuels funds are based on what? Fuel consumption, right? That's how the revenue is generated.
The Jiggy says we gotta get electric cars and you won't have to worry about the cost of gas.
That's fine. So it's a funding mechanism that's set up through the state that is collected at the gas pump. Every gallon of gas we pump puts money into a state fund based on our total number of miles. We get a percentage of that and we get money. People are buying less fuel, higher fuel efficiencies, electric vehicles, and so that pot of money is continuing to go smaller. Our roads are continuing to stay the same amount, but because the available amount of funds available, that money continues to go down. It's another thing that we need to continue to look at long term. So we're using $100,000 of general fund money to support our annual road paving program. Also includes the purchase of a skid steer for the Public Works Department. It's going to be a versatile vehicle that is going to enable us to recycle the existing forklift, which only has one function, replace it with a skid steer that can function as a forklift. It will enable us to do more road paving, milling, put a milling machine apparatus on the front of it. It's just so much more versatile than just a single function piece of equipment.
These are gonna come with all those attachments.
Yes. I think there's 10 that we have. Yeah. So it's a significant investment that Ryan and his crew are looking forward to integrating into their current equipment.
You have to go to school, to learn how to drive it.
You can drive it back.
I mean, I tried one of those virtual things and knocked out a fire plug. I couldn't dig a hole without hitting the fire plug.
I'm looking forward to taking it for a spin. And
Right.
well, no, of course. I want to dig holes too. Needed repairs, the Walters Road culvert, we're still working on that plan. It's still closed today. We're working with the township engineer to come up with a really good plan that we could integrate and repair. There will be federal funds available for that as well. And so we're trying to identify a really good solution so we're not in this same situation on a bond basis. Right? Strategic plans, those are the ones we were talking about with the road pavement assessment, data collection. I believe Mike introduced me to our new assistant planning and zoning officer, Ryan Gavin. I was going to introduce him later in the meeting. As he's here, we're talking about strategic plans. Ryan's background is really heavy in GIS, geographic information systems. And so by having these data collection points, collecting GIS data for road surface conditions, we can bring that and let Ryan have his way with it and build a fully functional road pavement improvement plan. Right, so that's got lots of plans here. Ryan's like, wait, what am I doing now? So we're really looking forward to that process. It also includes a facility and grounds assessment for North Branch Park. And that is going to be an instrumental strategic plan that we can use then for future budgets to identify future investments that need to be made in our flagship park. It has reached its useful life, and there are going to be significant investments in that park that are going to be needed. The road pavement assessment plan will be funded through the liquid fuels fund also, not out of the general fund. These other foundational projects that we've discussed, this is the first one here is my favorite. I can't wait. The new township list, we reserve it. It will really enable staff to be that much more efficient in their day-to-day operations. We're already working on identifying an electronic payroll system provider and updated tech for Board of Supervisors meetings. I'm always a fan of the lowest available technology to get us the biggest buck. I don't want to invest significantly in proprietary equipment. It's really expensive. I'd like to use off-the-shelf solutions, but something better than a camera hanging from the ceiling. There are some better options that we can do. We're going to be continuing to explore those opportunities. That's another thing that I believe that we'd be able to use the ARPA funds for. I believe I can use some of that money for those investments. And that's one thing in 2022 we will continue to talk more about, is what we want to use the ARPA funds for. This budget does not have any usage of any ARPA funds. We segregated it. We want them to be separate at this point. We don't have, there's a time clock on it, but that's at the end of 2024. So we've got a couple of years to make sure we are using it in the best way. So look forward to having those discussions in 2022. And the last one is the hopefully beginning to work on the conclusion of the Chamonix Greenway Trail with the Coleman property. The 2022 budget has a significant amount in it. We're receiving grant monies as well as engineering costs to get that to a point for construction, hopefully in the next year or two. Everybody's favorite, debt service. So everybody's eyes glosses over and glaze over and you start thinking about something else. Good news is that our debt service is a bit lower than 2021 budget. We have 3 funding sources, debt sources. Here are the details on those. This is a holdover from the previous presentation. Again, here are some inter-fund transfers. We have 114.5 going from the Land Preservation Fund to the Parks and Rec Fund, the maintenance and development of parks and open space. And this is from our streetlight fund to fund the streetlight debt service. Excuse me, several years ago, the township invested in LED lights. This is the debt that is associated with that LED project. And that is maturing in 2024. Land preservation. We do not have any millage dedicated to the Land Preservation Fund. We do have EIT, and EIT will generate estimated $600,000 for the Land Preservation Fund. Currently, we have $2.2 million in a dedicated fund for open space acquisition. The 2022 budget did not include any significant costs associated with that because we don't have any major projects in development as of yet. I'm confident that we have enough money in that fund that will be able to absorb anything that pops up in the next year. Proposed millage, as we've seen previously, no change from 2021. Total millage, total earned income tax of 1.125%. Remember, of the general purposes, the township only gets 0.5%. That 1% is split 50-50 between the township and the school district. While residents pay 1.125%, we only get 0.5% back to the township. Total real estate tax millage, 13.0625. No change in 2021. Next step, the board to consider to adopt the final budget at the December business meeting. Any questions? Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It was a good experience. I'm looking forward to continuing to move forward with fiscally responsible budgets and looking forward to making it even better. Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you.
Okay. Chance to go back to Steve. That is up again. We have information items, department reports, administration.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to talk about is that the board has at their spaces a final memo regarding the 2022 final budget and a copy of the proposed final budget. There are no changes from the proposed budget. So the budget document itself, the only thing that's different on it is the title of it. Change it from preliminary to final. And my memo summarizes, just gives you a good overview of what the budget includes. In 2 weeks, the board will have several administrative resolutions to consider.
What was that? Some of my people hitting the mic.
Oh, I thought yours was full. Sorry, I'm
Sorry.
Oh, and exciting at the same time. We'll have several administrative resolutions in 2 weeks. Tax levy, the GASB 54 resolution, and we have a first responder recruitment and retention stipend. It's a resolution we pass annually, where the township supports providing a stipend of $500 for any first responder who resides in the township. So these are some housekeeping resolutions that the board does on an annual basis. So be on the lookout for those in 2 weeks. Nothing for you to look at. Those are washers repeat every year. There's nothing to discuss. Tax levy, there's no change from 2021, so it'll be the same resolution. The other thing that I forwarded to the board last week, and is also a hard copy at your spots, is meeting schedule. One of the things that the board will need to do is adopt a meeting schedule for 2022. So we have 2 options. One being keep the Monday meetings. And the difference between this year and next would be that currently this schedule moving forward is that we've moved that first Monday meeting to 7 p.m. So all meetings will be in the evening. It keeps to that 2 meeting schedule. The other option, as we discussed in the last month's meeting, is a Thursday evening schedule. That also keeps the 2 meeting schedule with the exception of November and December. November and December, we are proposing that each one of those months has 1 meeting. We can do the budget presentations and adoptions at those first meetings. That follows tradition of boards past. So I believe this year is an exception. We've got 2 meetings in December. I wasn't aware of that. So after the fact, this is more similar to what the board has done in the past. Any comments, questions, thoughts? Where do you think you'd like it to go? Thanks to Mike for putting the schedule together and maybe updates to those to the schedules that the issues that were identified a couple of weeks ago. Any thoughts?
Good. Well, personally, I'd like to see a stable on that.
Yeah, because it does not affect me since the next meeting will be my very last one in 24 years. But,
To be continued. I don't need an answer right now. I'd be happy to discuss this in detail with every member of the board over the next 2 weeks. We would like a decision at December 20th.
yeah, well, you have to pass this in January.
Appointments. There was an appointment memo that was forwarded to the board from Mike. Just as a follow-up from our last meeting, we communicated to existing members of boards and commissions who are currently serving, sent a letter to them communicating with past practice. If they are still interested, to communicate back to us, which many of them have. Remember from the memo, about half of the current volunteers have responded. We're still waiting on another half. And we received, as at this point, still 4 additional members or volunteer residents who have to volunteer. So that would be something that we'll continue to discuss.
Right, yeah, I noticed the, on Facebook, that you put out the ad and whatnot, asking for people. I'm sure you expected a lot, but having been here for 24 years, sometimes it's like, to find somebody to hold on.
It's getting harder and harder.
It is a challenge.
So be happy if you have somebody who's willing to serve and does it and shows up to the meetings.
Well, I hope that Greg would be here today, and I understand he had an emergency. But since there's Greg and Stephanie is on the planning commission, I would assume that one of them would be stepping down, so that there would only be one board supervisor. I know they had previously been 2, but in past years, recent years, one of you had stepped down, so there was only one supervisor on that board. So I would assume that there should be, I would expect one position open in the planning commission. Yes, I would still like to see us as board members step down and be a liaison rather than be a seat at the board. We've already had a voting chance on anything that comes to our boards. I would rather have liaisons and have more members. If people will see that there are open seats. I'm sure more people will apply. There have not been an official open seat for many years, so that would be my expectation.
And I think when Bill first got appointed, we were both on planning commission. I stepped down because Governor Rendell put me on the water resources. The Delaware River Basin. I think that's enough. I don't need, but it's true. I think if you're gonna have any there, it should only be one.
To be continued.
Yeah.
That concludes my report. I have some other things to say, but I'll hold those comments until Parks and Rec Committee report. And that's it.
Brothers.
Well, while Greg comes in and gets set, talking about the budget and whatnot, and I'd like to include John in this. You know, there's things that we pay once a year, and we don't get a bill from somebody to pay, like the EMS, the money we give to EMS and whatnot. How do you keep track? Do you go back and look at last year's check register at the beginning of the month to see what was paid and to understand?
Yeah, so there's things that are coming up now, obviously, without the benefit of, excuse me, without the benefit of having talked to Sue prior. So now it's kind of seeing monthly where these things come up. And now as I'm building my reports out and my record keeping to see and signal myself for later on as these things come down the road, to be able to rectify that going forward.
Right, yeah, do you look at the old check register? I mean, sure, at the beginning of the month, you look and you say, oh, here's something that gets paid once a year. We do have pass through to the fire company and the EMS and the other, you know, and other fire companies.
Yeah, all that stuff is already taken care of anyway. So yeah, but that was one of those instances where when me and Sheila were going through some stuff to see what came up quarterly versus year end versus on a monthly basis.
That's something that we always look, I'm a firm believer in putting all of those things in the annual calendar, the personal calendar, and because those are wash and repeat, annual basis.
Right,
So when do we
right,
make this payment? Pops up, oh, got to process this.
right.
That's one thing as we transition from finance
Well,
directors.
the thing is, they're both new this year, so there's a lot to keep track of and to learn. So it's just, you know, there's
Yes.
got to be some mechanisms to help you keep.
It's
It's all I'm
typically
getting
right,
at.
yep, typically right now, you hit the nail on the head, looking at past check registers, looking at the accounting system, look at what checks went out, what months, making sure we're continuing to make those.
Right. And I think you need to somehow, this is my opinion, figure out, sit down with somebody who did it, figure out some of the stuff. To make sure that everything is, you know, the way it's supposed to be. Okay.
What does that mean?
Well, I put in for reimbursement for eyeglasses, and in the past, that came from Divot. I mean, Sue took care of it, but it came from Divot. And this time, it came from you know, township fund. So I just want to make sure that they understand that where some of this money is coming from, going to people. So for some of it, it does come through Divot. But Sue did take care of it. So that's all. I just, you know. Right? Well, you're here now. Everything okay?
Yeah, for today.
And before I conclude my report, Greg, I'd like to introduce you to our newest township employee, Ryan Galen, who is our assistant planning and zoning officer.
Good morning, Ryan. Pleasure to meet you. Nice to meet you. I would like to have met him sooner, but it's been a bit of a busy month for me.
Yeah, and we have to,
Representative by this morning.
but you can see my name. I'm telling, we had none. So we're up to,
Oh, okay. Please report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just a couple things to update the board on, as far as our hiring to fill the vacancy of police officer, conducting a background investigation on shooting candidates right now. Once those investigations are completed, that not only meet with the two candidates, determine who would be the best fit.
coming? Are they already police officers?
Yes, they were both already police officers. One is actually a police officer out in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, wow.
He is originally from the Langhorne
I
area.
can see when we get out, yeah.
So he basically wants to move back to the area. His family is in Langhorne. The other one is, one of the departments.
Okay.
And the other thing I have is, as part of our negotiating number of raising funds to sponsor families. We do have one family we're sponsoring right now, and we anticipate that we need.
Very good, thank you, Chief. Any other comments, questions, Chief? All it works.
Thank you, Greg. So last month we had our annual survey. But we continue to do our own leaf removal, so to speak, of road ditches. Continuing our idle repairs, our ditch line for stonework. That pretty much wraps up for November. And then next weekend, we actually have our annual camp.
I will make the assumption that you're filled up with stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've been filled up since
I thought-
last year.
And we're not going to look at and talk about this Wednesday at all. Not.
That's right.
That's me.
See, I don't watch television, so I have no idea when it's snowing out. I'm gonna
It's just
stay
gonna pass.
myself.
It's gonna pass. It's just.
We're going on strike anyway.
Am I allowed? Can I go on strike? Well, no, I can get away with that.
I would love 120,000.
So actually, Ryan, as a sort of aside to that, I know you don't talk about it, but I know that we had hired part-time slot snow hours on bus. Have we been able to still secure those people? And are we at full strength? Are we not at full strength in this?
In discussions that I've had with Mike, we did send out all of our information to our normally used contractors. As far as that returning information, how many we have.
So based on conversations with Ryan, we have about half that have responded, but I will say for the few of them tend to drop their stuff off at the first snowstorm. Ryan, actually they call them for work. That's when Ryan will call them and if they won't get paid, they'll should they get other insurance. They'll have to go do that. Ryan will make sure they get the ones signed before they go out and vote.
I did reach out to them all.
That was still.
But like I said, as far as them actually hand delivering it here,
Something generally, you want to get paid, I need your paperwork down.
Any other comments or questions on public works? Solicitor report. Have nothing other than to just point out, I think you all were aware of this, that we had an appeal on the Court of Common Pleas involving Mortimer on Pearl Hill Road. The court ruled in our favor of the decision. I think this week, the 30 days one, so they could see if is there any other questions? Seeing none, engineer's report.
Right across the street from the mill.
early.
Hill is on some state, yeah.
think you guys are all aware, I'm gonna update the staff. And people know, and Kim, I'm sure that. He's up in Sal, there was people picking it out last year when his neighbor tries each and they were not. I got a call from, I talked to Peter around Friday. Friday, President of the Homes is looking to buy that. He's working with that. So the issue was it's slip zone. Because we want that triangle, I put on a review, please address this now. We couldn't force them to, they didn't do it. Peter made it clear to everybody that first we're gonna have to deal with it. Well, we're at that. They just he emailed me, said, hey, just give me some direction. I said, you might be able to stay on Tuesday. We can call Peter. So I called him back on Friday and said, yeah, I'm just gonna sketch plan. They may just go on the board for these experiences. It's mainly SR2. And there's a little slip, this little wedge. So he's going to talk this. He has a higher professional. So anyway, you'll hear more about the information project. The other thing is I started calling also this week, last week. I please get this. We've been working with them on technical stuff. This project is going on. Because you guys saw it up front, gave feedback, the big picture things. I think it went really well. We weren't stormwater. They had a lot of things to get rid of. Site, stuff like houses, the parking lots and whatnot. They've been paying the bills. I've heard any complaints when they hear. We get, 2 weeks working with big engineers. Let's do that away. Let's put together. So, still more management. So I anticipate a pretty clean, process here. You already done the zoning, initial use. Let's see if I can submit a response on that. We'll see what the comments are. They're not in any hurry, but at least they're. Yeah, actually, I will be.
Yeah, probably because I think the lease runs out at the end of 2022. And they said they'd honor that lease.
Have they already waived their 90-day clock on everything? Yeah. So
This has been honestly for parts to decide. We don't want to talk about it because it's been going really smooth, but they listen to you up front and they came from the board twice. They're very cool with everything. And it's not a difficult site. Jeanine reviewing the rhythms disturbance, right up against the rhythms disturbance. We just reviewed 2 weeks ago their version of what Jeanine gave me our definition is a zoning of service, so it's a little bit they're right on that one. So that probably these issues. Same with that.
right, there's 90-day clock. Wow.
That's what I mean. Oh, yeah, we have, that's what I said, there's only thing on the PSA.
Right.
The Congress is with the new application.
Okay, so I should rephrase that. We're going to, we typically ask them to waive it up front.
I
Yeah.
believe there is a sign.
Okay.
When they submitted their sketch plan, I believe that was given to them.
I get a new one.
Yeah.
Under application, we'll send another one.
Jeanine will get that. And that's the.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for the engineer?
Board comments.
No,
I'll go left or right.
Yeah, I think I got most of mine out. Okay. Thank you.
Bill?
This one just, to bring it up with Santa this Friday and Saturday with the big giant one. And always fun, so it's good.
Why? Would everybody please stop talking about bad weather? As long as it's rain. Cynthia?
No, I have no board comments, I'm just gonna comment during.
More board comments. Next on the agenda is the committee reports, Park and Recreation Committee.
So Michelle Clancy had to be absent today with a health issue at home. I'm pinch hitting for Michelle. There was a memo that was forwarded to the board. We had 3 topics on it. First one is a memorial tree request from Amy Arnold. That will be up for the board's consideration at the meeting in 2 weeks. We selected the appropriate species and the appropriate location. I just want the board to vote to authorize that in 2 weeks. There is a draft of a memorial event or memorial program. Parks and Rec Board has been working on to memorialize a memorial program when residents come in and are looking to memorialize a loved one. We wanted to have something that we could provide to them that outlines the process, including the types of memorials that we're going to offer, the locations of the memorials, and what those costs would be. So if you could just give that a look over before next meeting in 2 weeks, and then ask the board to authorize to adopt that process as well. And also included in that memo was a thank you letter to David Tursich, who has been serving on the Parks and Rec Committee as a junior member for quite a long time. Unfortunately, we're losing him because he is moving out of state. While, Zoom has been great, I just don't think it would be a good idea to move to Texas and to continue to serve. And that concludes, I'm sorry, one more thing. If you remember 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, at the November meeting, we asked you to authorize the expense in 2021 for an updated playground structure for North Branch Park. And through that motion, we discussed the inclusion of more ADA swings and also the idea of keeping the existing swing set. And so this updated plan that you see in front of you, we printed out, shows that this is an idea that we can keep the existing play structure, the existing swing structure, since it's still in good shape, expand the playground area to include a more ADA inclusive swing set structures. We have 2 swing set structures. We would expand the footprint of the play area and look like this. And unfortunately, we still don't have the final cost at this moment. We anticipate hoping to keep it under. The 2021 budget is going to be 21 budget. 2022 budget, I'm hoping will still be within the budgeted amount. So I have those numbers for. I was hoping to have them late today on Friday. Any reactions? Any comments? Any yays, nays?
Is the old swing set we want to just policy?
That's correct. Yep, so these are the old ones here that will remain. The new swing bank will be over here, and you're going to see the infant buckets and the ADA swings on the left-hand side. So, and nothing has changed with the play structure itself. So we an added cost because the only added cost is adding the different types of swings. The ADA swings, there's going to be a nominal cost increase for that. And expanding the footprint, so there's going to be a border and then an increased playground launch. So we're expecting any reactions, comments?
Looks good.
And thanks to Shell and everybody else in the Parks Department and Mike, Ryan, everybody has been putting our heads on this thing. So thanks to everybody on staff who've been involved in this. I'm looking forward to getting into this. That concludes the Parks and Rec Committee report.
Address the Santa House.
Okay.
So, Santa House is on this Friday and Saturday. We were unfortunate that we were not getting required participation this year. Just miscommunication in different directions. There will be hot chocolate and cookies, individually wrapped. I know Nancy will be doing some chocolate chip cookies still this of the year. But otherwise, there is single serve cookies, and we're trying something new with having the hot chocolate made and then put into basically a big coffee urn that's not heated but insulated. So at least then it will stay warm and not have to be turned up and down. Actually, try to have some more ease of serving. So we have 2 Park and Rec work people coming. We have Shell and Kim coming both nights, and then some Park and Rec volunteers as well as.
Santa will be arriving with the Shell Pond Chemical Fire Company this year. It has been, and I believe Santa's still on schedule. It's all good.
5 o'clock, so 5 to 7. If you want to come and say hello.
Fantastic. Are there any other comments or questions regarding the Department of Recreation reports? Public comment?
There's somebody online.
No public comment on
Very good. Is there anything else?
Anything else?
All right. Very good. Then I will make the announcement that the next Board of Supervisors meeting will take place on Monday, December 20th, 2021 at 7 o'clock here at the Township Building. Agenda and meeting materials will be posted on the website prior to the meeting date at newbritontownship.org. The YouTube channel will have this meeting posted to it within the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you all for that. And at this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
We'll be meeting in executive session. For conclusion, not the meeting.
Okay, very good. All right.
No, man.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.